I recently got engaged to my boyfriend of 3 years. For background, he's an oncologist, his parents divorced when he was 5, mother-in-law never remarried or had more kids, but father-in-law didn't, so fiance has a younger half-brother and a stepmom. I have a BA and MBA from decent schools, but I quit my conventional office job to be a yoga teacher and eventually opened my own yoga studio. Mother-in-law was not outwardly hostile towards me, more like polite but very cold. She told fiance it was because a yoga teacher wasn't good enough for him. Why couldn't he find a nice lady doctor, a nurse at work, etc. Fiance told me this because we don't keep secrets, but I never mentioned it to mother-in-law, I just stopped trying so hard. She would periodically warn fiance I was out for his money because he's a doctor, he needs someone on the same level. What mother-in-law did not learn until after we were engaged is that, through my grandfather, I have a substantial trust fund. I have 0 student loans, a paid-off home, car, and own my studio with no debt. I keep this information private from most people because I don't want to be judged for it. I didn't tell fiance until about 15 months into our relationship. When we got engaged, she was telling fiance he needs a prenup, and that's when he told her about my finances. She lost her mind. Told him he and I should not have withheld that information, we were disrespectful, deceitful, manipulative, etc. She then started trying to act like my best friend. I maintained a polite distance. She asked fiance why, and he told her that I knew he didn't like me because a yoga teacher isn't good enough. Y'all, she turned on the waterworks, tears, sobs, said he should not have told me, and that he ruined her relationship with her future daughter-in-law. I think she's full of it. His father and stepmom have been kind, accepting, warm and loving to me since the day we met. It didn't matter that I'm just a yoga teacher. His mother insists I and my fiance are cruel and deceitful. I think people like her are the reason I am right to hide my financial situation. Fiance thinks we should apologize just to smooth things over and clean the slate. I have no interest in doing so. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Keep an eye on how much fiance wants to placate his mother. That he thinks you should apologize for her bad behavior just to keep the peace is worrisome. Your finances as a single person and the finances of both of you as a married couple are none of her concern. She was wrong to ask about them, and she was wrong to try to tell her son what to do. Any truthful apology that I can think of would probably not suit. I am sorry for thinking that you meant it when you said a yoga teacher wasn't good enough for your son. I apologize for not realizing how interested you are in things that are none of your business, like my finances. Not the idiot. Your finances are your business, not your mother-in-law's. She sounds like she has impossibly high standards if a well-educated business owner who makes her son happy isn't good enough. Why would you even be interested in your fiance's money when you can make your own? The only reason I can think that she believed you were just after his money is because she is like this herself. All about money. The fact that she basically admitted she'd have been nicer to you if she knew you had a trust fund. Why else would her not knowing have ruined your relationship? I wouldn't apologize, she can kick rocks. Not the idiot. It's none of her business. Do not apologize. Absolutely, under no circumstances, ever, should you apologize. People like her are the reason you are right to hide your financial info. Your fiancé crossed a big boundary by telling her in the first place. He should have refused to discuss it further with his mother because it's none of her business, but instead he shared your information in an effort to get her off his back. He's her son. He's known her all his life. He should have known that wouldn't work. Tread carefully in this marriage. I am not saying to break up with him, but you need to be careful. My boyfriend's mom moved in with us after she was laid off from her job. Temporarily, of course, but it's going on about 8 months now. I, like hundreds of millions of people on this earth, am left-handed. It hasn't posed much of a problem for me ever since I left school and got away from tiny desks, but she, who I will call mother-in-law for simplicity's sake, for unfathomable reasons is determined to make it one. We have a smattering of specialty left-handed items throughout the house, like scissors, measuring cups, can opener, some lefty Japanese knives. Since I did all of the cooking for me and my boyfriend, we don't have any normal versions of the kitchen items except for a regular chef's knife. According to mother-in-law, this is wrong. I am not being accommodating to her and her son and creating a hostile environment that says you don't belong here in the kitchen. She didn't ask, but demanded that I buy normal versions of the lefty items in the house that she could use. Here's where I might actually be the idiot. I told her that I wouldn't be buying anything new and that she should be grateful to be living here. That she can use a left-handed can opener just like I can use a right-handed one. She needs to get over it. I told her I did not appreciate her switching the direction of the toilet rolls in shared bathrooms and adjusting the thermostat when she wasn't the one paying the bills. I said that we did her a huge favor by letting her move in with us and that my house isn't a hotel. She snapped back that a good host should make their home accessible for guests and that I use a right-handed computer mouse, so it's not as much of a burden for me to use right-handed goods as it is for her to use lefty stuff. She lost her job and she just wants to be comfortable in her own home. I tell her it's not her own home and that boyfriend would be speaking to her later about establishing house rules. She started sobbing loudly and said she might as well disappear. I told her I didn't have time for her theatrics and left for work. Not the idiot. After 8 months she's not a guest anymore. Would you be willing to let your mother-in-law bring in her own version of these items? If you have the space in the kitchen for them, that seems like a reasonable compromise. She must have had these items before moving in with you. Are they in storage somewhere? I'm left-handed too. So it is kind of interesting to hear about a righty complaining about what lefties deal with on a daily basis. She can use the scissors and knives and stuff. It is just going to be more awkward. An awkwardness we face every day. So, sadly, I don't have much sympathy for her. Not the idiot. While yes, a good host would want to make their guest comfortable, that depends on how likable the guest is. Sounds like she's overstayed her welcome, and on top of that, being unreasonable about what makes her uncomfortable. Lefties use right-handed items all the time, and while I'm sure it's not the most fun, it's doable, so mother-in-law needs to figure it out if she wants to live in your house. If she wants to be comfortable with right-handed items, she should get her own place. Also for small items like not toilet roll configurations but a mouse, a can opener, etc. Why can't she buy her own stuff and use them as she wants? Not the idiot. She should be grateful she isn't out on the streets. Making a home inviting for guests is for people who stay the weekend or week at most. After that you're not a guest, you're a resident. Considering you guys saved her from being homeless, and it doesn't sound like she is paying rent, she should be thankful you guys took her in. Demanding someone purchase multiple kitchen utensils just to satisfy them is ridiculous. Being someone's mom entitles you to zero free room and board. I strongly suggest you all sit down and make it clear that she is there because you guys did her a solid and took her in, and that you are under no obligation to provide anything for her. We became friends in college, but I knew he was interested in me romantically. I'd always insisted on just being friends because I wasn't attracted to him. After college we parted ways, but 6 months ago I reached out to him to wish him a happy birthday and we then exchanged a few texts. He then asked me if he could visit my home city during Memorial Day weekend, where I live alone in my parents' house. I reluctantly agreed because I was lonely. I've been working from home for more than 1 year, and I'd previously hosted another guy friend 2 years ago and had a great time. This guy was also an attorney, but he has been unemployed for a year, quit, and is still living at home. Even so, I assumed he'd have the funds to travel. His plane ticket was only $50 and he said when I picked him up at the airport that he'd bought a one-way ticket. That made me uneasy because I'd assumed he'd be here for just Memorial Day weekend. I insisted that he leave the weekend after Memorial Day at the absolute latest, but he said he wanted to keep his options open and would book a flight later. I wanted him to leave after Memorial Day weekend was over because I have a busy job. He wanted to stay longer because the plane ride was 2 hours each way. I became more uncomfortable after he hugged me and squeezed my butt the first night. He had a boner. I locked my bedroom door every night. One of my girlfriends staged an intervention after I told her that he wouldn't pay for anything such as museum tickets, ate my food and drank most of my alcohol, drinking my $50 wine without offering to buy wine when we were at the grocery store, and wouldn't confirm when he was leaving. I bought him Starbucks coffee the first morning he was here, and he didn't even offer to pay for mine 2 days later. After I told him he had to leave, he sobbed and called me terrible for making him buy an overpriced return plane ticket, $100, for the next day. He said I misled him by influencing him to think I wanted to be his girlfriend, and that he came all the way to visit me, and I live near DC where there's a lot to do, and not to see landmarks. I still woke up at 5 a.m. to drop him off at the airport, because he said he'd prefer to not pay $25 for an Uber. Am I the idiot here for agreeing to let him come in the first place? He's been unemployed for almost a year, and was making 6 figures before, so I assumed that he'd be a good visitor. Not the idiot. I'm so sorry he tried to manipulate you into letting him stay, and then tried to act like you let him on, which you didn't. He tried to take advantage of you, and he's clearly a predatory kind of guy. He thought if he could somehow make you love him, he'd get a free ride and stay here with you without having to work or pay for anything. I do think he's perhaps lied to you about his work situation. You don't make 6 figures and end up broke after a year of not working. On top of all that, he seems like an inconsiderate person anyway. He didn't behave like a friend when it comes to your food and drink, and letting you pay for his stuff. I really hope you never see this person ever again. Not the idiot at all. If anything, you were far too accommodating. He visited under false pretenses. He asked for the weekend, but then changed it to a week. After that, he still wanted longer. He essentially attempted to trap you into a relationship. He was counting on you being too nice to say no. Unfortunately, women in society are often raised to be accommodating, meek, and submissive, especially to men. We are taught it is rude to raise our voice or speak up if it might make others uncomfortable or upset. You deserve to feel comfortable. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to not be groped, period, but especially not in your own home. You deserve better than you are giving yourself. Not the idiot. He's the idiot who assaulted you in your own home. A hug might be an awkward mistake, but a butt grab is not. Also, to be clear, you did not mislead him. He misled you. He asked to visit over Memorial Day weekend, which is a 3-day, maybe 4-day, visit where he pays his own way. He assumed that meant you would be his sugar daddy for a month. Even if he's an idiot who honestly misunderstood the obvious and basic meaning of visit over Memorial Day, he's still a lecherous and abusive jerk who took advantage of you. Thank God you had the support of your friends and you got him out of there so quickly. I have 2 daughters, Essie Mae, 6-year-old, and Dolly, 10-year-old. Dolly has become really interested in pulling jokes on people. For the most part, this has been a non-issue. We had the whole "it's only okay if it makes everyone laugh, not just you" talk, and her jokes were innocent, like switching out her and her sister's identical pair of boots to make Essie Mae think her shoes grew overnight. That is, until Dolly hacked off a huge hunk of Essie Mae's mid-back length hair while she was sleeping, right at the scalp. Dolly showed no remorse for this. I'm a hairdresser and tried everything I could to see if I could camouflage the bald spot, but it was such a big patch that we had no choice but to buzz the rest of Essie Mae's hair off. Essie Mae recently was distraught and sobbed for days and refused to leave the house. My husband and I agreed that Dolly knew exactly what she was doing and did it specifically to be cruel to Essie Mae. We told Dolly that, since she took so much away from Essie Mae, it was only fair she had something of equal value taken away. We told her that she could choose to either have her iPad, computer, TV, and American Girl doll privileges taken away until Essie Mae's hair grew to around pixie cut length, or she could get a large portion of her hair, which was past her butt, cut off. Dolly reluctantly chose to cut her hair. I sat her down in front of the mirror and told her that, since she was so okay with cutting her sister's hair, she'd be the one cutting her hair too. She started screaming and crying and saying she couldn't do that to herself, so I brought up that the other option for punishment was still available. She bawled her eyes out the entire time while she cut her hair off and ended up with a chin-length bob. I evened it out for her, of course. She sobbed for hours afterward, and a friend told me I may have been too harsh. Am I the idiot for making my daughter cut her hair off? Not the idiot. I actually think this should win some kind of fair parenting punishment award. At 10, Dolly is fully able to understand what she was doing and how it would devastate her younger sister. You didn't force her to cut her hair. You gave her perfectly acceptable options for punishment that didn't settle the score, and she decided she liked her stuff better than her hair. She's still getting off easier than her sister with bob instead of a buzz cut. I hope she is truly sorry and stops with pranks, because the older pranksters are always 100% the idiots, and I would rather have a bald daughter than one of those. Not the idiot, because you fairly gave her other options as well. It might sounded harsh because it was a little unorthodox, but it was fair. It's always easy to just take away the kid's TV privileges, but your punishment made her to exactly understand why what she did was wrong. The fact that she herself chose this option over the others shows that she didn't think it was a big deal at first, and therefore she didn't understand what her sister is going through until she was actually in a slightly similar place. Another good rule of thumb for a joke is, don't do anything to someone that would anger you if it happened to you. This is a situation I hope to never be in, because it's so hard. However, with children we don't get to decide their actions and how things pan out. I applaud giving multiple options, but I can't help but feeling this was a harsh punishment. However, you have more context than us with the situation, and you're absolutely right that this was a cruel action. But I don't think the learning stops here. Maybe have ongoing conversations, seek professional guidance on how to communicate the weight of Dolly's actions, pranks. I'd hate for the deeper learning to be wasted. Not the idiot, because your heart was in the right place, but I don't feel confident this was the best approach.